Major changes are on their way to West Fargo football. An update on that. Plus, meet the first-timers that are going to the Dakota Bowl this year. Hot Mike starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Tuesday morning. I almost said Monday. We haven't been back in studio. We're back in studio edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV. Good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls, KNBN in western South Dakota, and Inforum.com. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Sun's out. Happy Veterans Day to everybody that watches our program. We appreciate you. The reason we can do a show like this is because of people like that. Welcome to our Tuesday Spectacular. Back in studio after a busy day yesterday. I'll say we had fun out at the Shack yesterday. I will say, though, and we're not digging ditches here. We're not sending rockets to the moon or doing brain surgery. But 4 straight hours of live talking, not great, but we survived, got through, and specifically over, over 2,300 kids screaming at the top of their lungs for the better part of an hour and 45 minutes. But we had fun up there, and once a year to do that, that's a-okay. So great to be back here in our friendly confines for a busy Tuesday show because we are closing in. We mentioned it yesterday when we saluted our best of the weekend. Dakota Bowl week is fastly approaching on, I would say, I'd argue it's maybe one of our busiest sports broadcast weeks we've ever done here. Started yesterday. We did a basketball game in the middle of the day. We got another one tonight. We got another one tomorrow. We got a wrestling match coming up on Thursday. We got 4 football games on Friday and a Bison football game on Saturday. Then we rest, and we do it all over again the following week. This time with some travel involved a week from now. No one's crying for us. No one feeling sorry for us. It's just a matter of fact what we got going on. So we're excited to do it. Looking forward to the next few days. So we got one checked off yesterday. We got another one coming up tonight. We'll preview that with the Bison men taking on Cal State Northridge. The Matadors are back. They were here, I want to say, 2021. I want to say it was our first year that we were doing Bison basketball. So they're back after a 4-year stint for the NDSU home opener, and we'll get to that coming up later on in the show. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to cover a bunch. We didn't have a chance to visit with our guy Sam Herder yesterday since we were up at the Shack. We'll have Sam today. It's important considering we're down to the final 2 weeks of the FCS regular season. Lot to discuss there on who is in, who's out. The Missouri Valley is potentially could get 6, maybe 5. We'll discuss that coming up later on in the program. We'll also reflect on the record-setting weekend it was for MSUM football. Steve Laqua will join us in his usual Tuesday spot after the Dragons got a big win. Now MSUM is potential here. They have to win Saturday over Mankato. They got a couple results they needed over the weekend if they want to potentially sneak in to the expanded Division II postseason. We'll discuss that coming up later on in the show as well. And you heard me tease it about the first-timers in the Dakota Bowl. The Bottineau Braves will be heading to Fargo later this week. You'll meet them coming up later on. The real road warriors. Bottineau went on the road, won in Ellendale a couple weeks ago. Last week, won on the road in Killdeer. Now they've got another 4-hour trip planned to Fargo coming up later this week to play in the Class A championship game. So we'll visit with them later on in the program. We've got just a couple of first-timers. We got a rematch in the 9-man championship. Langdon's back for the 800th time in Class A, and I say that in jest. Their program is fantastic. Minot North is obviously in its debut. They're only in their second year of varsity ball. Devil's Lake is back for the first time in 15 years. And then Century and Davies are, let's just say, regular entrants to the Dakota Bowl. So we've got 2 first-timers coming up, and you'll meet the Bottineau Braves coming up later on in the show. But let's start with some hoops. Our Wolves have started to play some pretty good ball here. Last night, they're wrapping up back-to-backs after they beat Sacramento on Sunday. They were playing the Utah Jazz last night. Some special credit if you can name more than 2 or 3 Utah Jazz members. Anthony Edwards was pretty good again since coming back from the hamstring injury. Drains a deep 3. He got some help last night from Jaden McDaniels. This is a heck of a dunk. That got everybody. We remember a couple years ago what Anthony did to John Collins in Utah, which was like a face remover kind of dunk. This one was pretty darn good. The Jazz are going to be a struggling out for this season. That was a nice reverse jam there. The only good thing is they're wearing some old throwback jerseys, which are pretty darn good. But Minnesota goes and gets a win last night on the road. They get to 7-4 as they win 120-113 was the final. Ant goes for a cool 35-6. Julius Randle, that picture was outstanding at 27. There's a neat little stat. Ant scored 9 straight games with 30 points or more against Utah. The Jazz had 50 rebounds, which seems like a lot to me. But they finish off this road swing with a couple of wins. They're back home. They get Sacramento in their next game in the NBA Cup. They already beat the Jazz in their first one. They play those games on Fridays in November. But solid win there for the Wolves. Get to 7-4 now, a few days off before they're back in action at the end of the week to take on the Kings. All right, I wanted to get to this story and give a little bit of runway here before we get rolling here on a busy Tuesday. I had caught wind of the news that became official yesterday, late last week, that West Fargo was going to make a change for its head football coach, that Jay Gibson was going to be done after 35 years of leading the Packers. It became official yesterday in a press release sent out by the school that they termed it as that Jay was resigning, not retiring. He confirmed that in an interview he did with Ryan Spitza from the Forum yesterday. I'll give Jay stats, and then I want to chat on this for a second. 217 wins, 29 playoff appearances, 6 state championships, got there 7 times. He goes without saying, he's one of the all-time greats in North Dakota high school football history. That just goes without saying. I'll say it anyway. He is one of the quirkiest guys I've ever met. I never left an interview with Jay thinking, boy, I wanted more out of that. There was never a time I didn't get any interview I wanted from him saying, boy, that went a different way than I initially intended. You're seeing that's video from when they won the state championship, his last one in 2017, when they beat Minot that year. Of course, he coached with the legendary Bob Feeney, coming up there after growing up in Dickinson, graduated from UND, played football and basketball at the University of North Dakota. And he's been the dean of the EDC for I don't know how long, since Kevin Feeney left to go from Fargo South to Moorhead in 2010. Troy Mattern had that title for a while, with being the second longest tenured behind Jay. And he had some epic matchups. West Fargo South games were tremendous. When Cheyenne came on the scene, I remember we were out there this is when we used to do our full game production for our game of the week. And West Fargo and Cheyenne were playing for the first time in varsity football. I remember Jeremy Newton's on one side of me and Jay's on the other. And could tell Jeremy was not nervous, but certainly this was a big challenge. And West Fargo got the better of them the first 3 or 4 times. The games weren't close. And then we did the game. It was either in 17 or 18. It must have been 18 when Cheyenne finally got him. And how big a night it was. And I remember Jason, yep, it was bound to happen, knowing full well that the student population structure in West Fargo had forever changed, and it was going to change again when Horace came into the mix, and it's going to change again probably in the not-too-distant future. Now, I will tell you, I caught wind of this from sources I trust late last week that there was a group of parents that were ready to be done with Jay Gibson. They were ready for some new leadership and to go in a different direction. I can't tell you beyond if it was malicious, if it was seditious, if it was ill intent to say, you know what, his methods are outdated. Obviously, the West Fargo School District just went through this a few months ago with Pat Johnson, the legendary hockey coach that they had step aside after what was termed questionable practice policies that were going on with the girls' hockey program, and we know what went down there. So I can tell you, Jay stopped teaching in 2020, which I think ruffled maybe some feathers there, that he was still coaching but not having a full-time teaching position. That the school district signed off on it and had done this for the last 5 years. Without knowing more of the specifics, I will tell you we've done enough of these stories that it's just too bad that sometimes the loudest people in the room are the ones that get either the most respect or are scare enough away to say this is the way we're going to go. I've done too many of these to say the loudest people pound on the table that we got to do something different end up winning out. And maybe that's the case here. Maybe I'm talking on my rear end. I trust the people that told me what went down here. And Jay said in his interview with Ryan that, he wants to go and be an assistant and be a position coach somewhere and not have the strain of being the guy. But you know what? 35 years earns you a retirement tour. 35 years earns you a chance to say goodbye on your own terms. Doesn't it? Unless the man did something that was nefarious, then he deserves that. He deserves to be honored at every game that the Packers play on the road, when they go and play at South, when they play at Shanley. You don't think Troy and the people at Shanley would have given him a royal send-off just because of the battles those two guys have had? Absolutely. You don't think the people at Fargo North would have stood and applauded and said, hey, this is the last time that the Packers are going to be playing the Spartans with Jay Gibson as head coach? Certainly at Davies, certainly at Cheyenne or at Horace, I'm pretty sure Jeremy Newton would have rolled out the red carpet for the guy that they went to battle with for the last decade plus. I'd like to have some more transparency here on this. We always do, especially in these, especially when it's termed resigning, not retiring. And I know what Jay said, and if that ends up being the case, more power to you, bud. You've earned it. Go do what you want to do. I think, though, for the people out there that'd like to know what is the deal, and frankly, West Fargo doesn't have the benefit of the doubt. They just don't in these cases. Too many times on this show, too many times when I was still anchoring the sports on a night-to-night basis, we had these stories, specifically out of that school district. His old assistant coach, Jim Jonas, went down that same road. Gosh, that was 10, 12 years ago. It doesn't mean that he's not quirky, not different, not difficult. No, just the fact of 35 years earns you the right to go out on your own terms, in my opinion. It's not professional. It's not even Division I. It's high school football. And it's not like West Fargo has not been competitive. They have. West Fargo made the playoffs. West Fargo got in. Was the 3 seed this year. I lamented the seeding process of this, but the man has built you can see the amount of players coming out. Tyler Roll messaged me yesterday about this, who might be his most famous player, who's now coaching in the National Football League, and how much he meant to them. Part of that state championship team when they won in 2003. To countless guys that I've covered since I've been in the area since 2006. It's disappointing. And for the next person who has this job, good luck. Because that is a heck of a job to walk into. You got your work cut out for you trying to follow that guy. But I just wanted to spend a few minutes on that. So I would say congratulations to Jay. I know he watches periodically. He's earned it. But I just wish he had a chance to say goodbye the way he wanted to, and I don't believe he got that opportunity. We have a packed show coming up for you here on this Tuesday morning. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Just a couple minutes, we'll head to Bottineau, North Dakota. Zach Keller, head coach of the Braves, will join us. They are making their Dakota Bowl debut after a big win over second-seeded Killdeer on Saturday. They'll make the 4-hour jaunt to Fargo. We'll visit with them coming up here in just a few minutes. Our guy Mike McFeely will join us at 9:35. I'll get him nice and riled up with some FBS chatter, and also we'll check about the Bison victory and now what's ahead for the next 2 weeks. North Dakota State's going to be heavy favorites in their final 2 games of the regular season. At 10 o'clock, a special Tuesday appearance from our guy Sam Herder to unpack what we saw this past weekend and look ahead. We've got 2 weeks to go. 2 of the 11 automatic bids have been locked up. There will be a couple more on the line this weekend. We'll discuss that. And at 10:35, our guy Steve Laqua to wrap up the show after the Dragons had Gage Florence become the NCAA all-time leader in receptions in Division II history. Now they've got 1 game to go in the regular season as they take on Mankato. We'll visit with him about that coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Tuesday. We'll take our first break. We're glad you're joining us. We come back. We're heading to Bottineau to visit with the Braves about their fantastic season. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back, everybody, here on our Tuesday Morning Spectacular. There it is, the list of games we got coming up for you on Friday. For the Dakota Bowl, our coverage begins on WDAY promptly at 9 a.m. with a 9-man championship with New Rockford, Cheyenne, and Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion. That'll be followed by the Class A championship game between Bottineau and Langdon area Munich. Then late in the afternoon, about 3 for the 2A championship game between Minot North and Devil's Lake. And then prime time at 6:30, Bismarck Century and Fargo Davies. Find it on your ABC station across the state. You can also stream it on WDAY+. It's a state holiday for us, the greatest day of football in the state of North Dakota, and excited to be part of it. Hot Mike will be live up at the Dome on Friday. I'm actually calling the Class A championship game. They drug me out of retirement to do some high school football. Looking forward to that for the game with Bottineau and Langdon area Munich. It's our pleasure to welcome on Bottineau head football coach Zach Keller joins us here on this Tuesday morning after the Braves punched their ticket to the Class A championship with a thrilling win over Killdeer. I mentioned earlier, you guys have been the road warriors here. You won on the road in Ellendale. Then you won last week on the road in Killdeer. Just describe what the last couple weeks like have been for your football team.
Yeah, they're definitely battle tested. I mean, even to start the year non-region, we went down to Lisbon the first week of the year and took a long trek there and made our way back down to Ellendale there the second week of playoffs. And that was probably a game that I don't think anybody will ever forget. It was fun. I mean, obviously a little hard on the heart valves, but it was a fun time. And then taking the trek out west to Killdeer last week, we've covered a lot of parts of the state, and but we're not going to complain at all. We're happy to make the trek to Fargo this week.
I was just going to say, the only part of the state you probably hit is the northeast corner of it in 2025. Take me back. Let's go 2 weeks ago for the Heartstopper at Ellendale, and recap for people that didn't see it or didn't hear about it, how you guys won that football game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to our kids. They never got down. They're very resilient in that game. I mean, down 2 scores there at the, in the second half, and there was just no quit in them. You could just see that they were going to give it everything they had, and, battled back there and scored with about, I can't remember, 4 minutes roughly left, and, down 1. So it's like, do we go for the tie or we go for the 2? It was kind of unanimous, coaches and players, what we wanted to do. So we went for 2 and were able to get it there and, keep our season alive. So it was one that the kids, people that were there, I don't think will ever forget that one.
I was going to say, you've been coaching for a bit. How were the nerves on that 2-point conversion when you decided to go for it?
Honestly, truthfully, it was kind of in our coaches' heads and on the headset, we were kind of thinking, let's go for 2 the whole way. It was just, then, as the play caller, it's which one are you going to dial up? And, you just got to trust your kids in that moment, and you got to give credit to them.
And then this past week for the game at Killdeer, you guys got up by a couple scores. Just how did that lessen the nerves because you got out and played so well to start the game?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like the old cliche, kind of a lot of complimentary football there. The first half, the offense was kind of clicking, and our defense kind of bowed their necks the second half. And we had a big field goal in that second quarter. It was 36-yard field goal that, if you kind of look at the final score, that was really huge.
Yeah.
I mean, to have that in your back pocket, and a small town North Dakota, it was just nice to see all three levels contribute.
You looked at Class A this year. Did you guys feel maybe off the radar, knowing Kildare was the 2, Ellendale was the 3? Obviously, we know about Velva. You played Velva earlier this season. Langdon is what they are. Hey, nobody talk about us, and then let's see what happens. Was that almost your mindset this year?
And it's like I said, earlier, it's credit to this group. They didn't really care that they weren't receiving any votes. They just wanted to put their nose to the grindstone. It's kind of like credit, the character of this team. They just grind, and it's as a coach, it makes my job easy. Probably the most unselfish team that I've had in overall in my years here.
Give us a couple of your standouts. Who has really carried the water for you guys in 2025?
Our quarterback, Emerson Marham, plays quarterback and plays some DB for us. He's a junior, and he's put a lot of time in the offseason to work on his craft. I mean, he was working up on the field on his own 2-3 nights a week and bringing receivers with him, and working with the quarterback coach, and the time he spent in the weight room, and it's definitely showed. He's played a lot of varsity sports. I mean, he, as a freshman, started some games at D-back for us, and started a lot of games at basketball as a freshman, and then I also coached baseball, and he was our second baseman when we went to state tournament his freshman year. So, I mean, he's had a lot of varsity time under his belt in various sports, and he's just a kid who, he's a gamer. I mean, he just gets after it, and then we have a lot of seniors on this team. We're pretty senior heavy. We have 3 senior linemen that, kind of help anchor this team with our center and both of our guards. And then we have our right tackle is a senior too. So it's kind of a lot of older guys that have played a lot of football that, help lead this team.
Did you have a sense when fall camp broke, or when you were getting ready for the start of the season, that you had a chance to be special in 2025?
We knew there was a lot of talent on this team. And like I said, these older guys have played a lot of football. And then you got to give credit to a lot of our younger guys, because they took bigger steps than, you kind of go into the season like, well, we, have a few kids here and there that could play these spots, and will they take that leap? And they did. And it kind of showed every week, kind of moving forward. We got through those 2 non-region games, and we opened the region up with Bishop Ryan, and it was kind of like, all right, these guys get it. Like, I think we can make it's just good to see as a coach. That
game with Velva, how much was that here's a measuring stick of where we are in 2025?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, defending state champs, program that's been very good for a long time. And, with Coach Sandy and then with Coach Weidler kind of, continuing that on. And it's very well-ran program. And we stuck with them, the whole game. And just a couple things here and there that didn't go our way. And it kind of, I think, really helped this team, because it showed them, what you got to do to take that next step. And it was kind of a stepping stone for us.
So now this is reality. First, the game ended, first time going, what was that bus ride back home like on Saturday evening?
It was a long trek, but I don't think the kids wanted to get off the bus. I think they were just ready to take off for Fargo right there. But no, it's just, this, we've been in the playoffs quite a few times the last few years and had a lot of experience. And then, obviously last year losing first round in Central Cass, a good team, and that's just their tough team, and then this year it was like they kind of just had a chip on their shoulder that they wanted to build off of that. And that's just a credit to them.
I got to ask, I've asked a couple other Class A coaches. I want to get your thoughts on this. Knowing with Kindred and Central Cass moving out, did that open it up for you guys to say, hey, and telling your team there's a title to maybe be won here? Was that discussed at all with you guys?
Well, I mean, you think about it a little bit. I mean, that's 2 very well-ran programs, and, they moved up to Class AA, and then kind of looking at this year, as the season kind of started to go on, and, you looked at it and there's like, man, there's a handful of teams that could really make a run at this thing. And probably the most wide open this class has been in a long time. And I think it's good to see for the state of North Dakota.
All right, tell us about Langdon, what brings to the table, and what kind of challenge this is going to be for your team on Friday afternoon.
Oh, they're a very well-run program. I mean, we used to be in Region 2. We've been in Region 2 the last few years and then moved to Region 3 this year. So played Langdon a lot, and Coach Kravachka does a heck of a job there. I mean, runs a very good program. So they'll be ready to roll. We got to be ready and worry about ourselves and be ready to rock and roll.
So a game at noon, how do you adjust for that? That's not normally on a Friday. You don't normally play at that time. How do you adjust this week to get ready for that on Friday?
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, I guess one thing that maybe helps is the last, 3 Saturdays you've kind of played that mid-afternoon game. So hopefully that'll just be a, slight adjustment with that. And then, obviously the atmosphere of playing in the dome. But I think these kids are, like I said, battle tested, and they're just ready to go, I think.
All right, I asked you this. I'll do this before we get going. Just describe what the last couple. You're not only football coach, you're AD as well. You got a lot of hats here this week. What has the last couple days been like, and what is Friday going to be like for your community?
Yeah, ever since basically getting off the field in Kildare, it was jump on the laptop on the bus ride home and start the camp. But like I've been telling people, it's been a busy time, and it's a great problem to have. For this community, the support that they've showed us this season, backing us, and I couldn't believe the crowd we had in Kildare. And it was, for them, a lot of Bottineau people that, maybe don't have kids on the team that made that trek. That showed me a lot about the support that this community has behind us. And I think they're going to make the trek to Fargo, and we should have a good showing there.
That's my next question. How much purple is going to be in the stands of the Dome on Friday?
I think you're going to see a lot of purple and white on one of those sides.
Thanks so much for doing this, bud. Safe travels, and we'll see you on Friday afternoon, okay?
You bet, Don. Appreciate you having me on.
Zach Keller joining us. Bottineau head football coach. The Braves will match up with the Cardinals from Langdon area Munich. That'll be our second game of 4 coming up on Friday at noon. You'll see it live on WDAY. Congratulations to them, and looking forward to seeing their team play that Class A championship game. Everyone's looking at Langdon. Langdon's been number 1 all season long. Bottineau, though, hasn't mattered to anybody. They went and beat the 3 seed. They went and beat the 2 seed. Now they got number 1 in their sights coming up on Friday. We'll take a break. When we come back, our guy Mike McFeely will join us. Lots to unpack with Michael, including from the Bison game on Saturday over UND. And a couple other things to rile him up, I'm sure, here on a Tuesday. Back right after this.
Oh, it's Mr. McFeely.
I have seen the future, and he was wearing number 5, and I ain't talking about Robbie Grimsley, folks.
Took out the muffins, took out the trail mix, took out the cookies. They stole the monster cookies.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Let's do some broadcasting.
Yeah. All right, we're going to do some broadcasting with our guy Mike McFeely, always Natalie attired. Appreciate your shirt today. The old Ron Burgundy, you stay classy. Yeah, that's fantastic. Where do you get such wonderful shirts?
What do kids do? They do this?
Yeah.
Superman?
Where are you getting all these?
My daughter.
Yeah?
My daughter knows her father very well, so she finds fun T-shirts and buys them for me and laughs when I put them on.
Well, I think I know you kind
24,
of... Yes.
so it's not like she's a kid. Well, she's a kid.
I tend to think I know you kind of well as well, and people love when you're on the program, you get all fired up. They really appreciated your Summit League rant last week. I got another one here for you today. You may have seen this story already, so I apologize if you did. But CBS Sports reported this morning that our friends in Springfield, Missouri are appealing to the NCAA that they should be eligible for a bowl game.
Hey.
Because the Mo State Bears are 6-3.
Right.
That means they are bowl eligible, but because they're a transitioning program from FCS to FBS, that they're ineligible for 2 years.
First of all, they have to do that because everybody else does it. Remember,
correct.
James Madison
They
did that as well.
And they did not get that appeal
and got denied because the NCAA, unless you're Alabama or Ohio State or
Florida
Penn
State,
State, or Oregon, you're not gonna get any break. They just don't care. Second of all, to all you idiots in Grand Forks, Brookings, wherever, that say that North Dakota State would go 6-6 if they went FBS. No, if Missouri State can be 6-3,
Yupper.
and I know it's Conference USA, which is a glorified FCS conference.
I was going to say FCS league, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, but it just shows to go you that. Again, this is old news, but North Dakota State would do just fine. The question is, and I'm banging a drum that's not going to happen. I realize that. That the question really should be, how long would it take NDSU to get to the point where they're in the discussion for a college football playoff
berth. Yes.
James Madison is ranked 24th this
Yipper.
weekend in the this week in the AP poll. And I'm getting old, and so my memory's not what it once was, but I recall that NDSU and James Madison were pretty much equal, and NDSU actually only lost to James Madison one time out of, 5 tries?
Correct.
In FCS. And so that would tell me that if James Madison, with the resources they put in, the success they've had, the tradition there, if they can be ranked 24th in the country, I think maybe NDSU could do that as well. And I think if NDSU went FBS and had that opportunity, I shouldn't say if they went because it's not their choice, they would like to, that I think that the donations and the checks being written and all these rich people and some of the names we know, some we don't, would get fully behind it and say, let's do this. And let's get in talk with Memphis and South Florida and Boise State, not this year, James Madison, and let's try to get that college football playoff spot because that, idiot friends, would be so much more exciting and so much fresher and so much more cool than, we're going to play in the second round of the FCS playoffs for the 20th consecutive year. And that's great. The NDSU's got a great team this year.
Yep.
The fans should be excited, even though I don't think they are. The team deserves all the kudos it gets. Tim Paulsek deserves all the kudos he gets, and that next paycheck he's going to get somewhere else deserves all of those things.
Yep.
But it's far past time, and the Mountain West are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, well, I was going to say because Mo State has future Mountain West opponent UTEP on the schedule this week. So they're going to win that. Then they play
Go
Kennesaw,
Bears!
And then La Tech. They can win 9 games.
Yes.
Missouri State never won 9 games in FCS football.
Nope.
Never.
And actually,
never.
It's just the last couple of years that they've even been any good at all.
Petrino's best team in 2021 won 7 that year.
Yep.
They're going to win 9 in FBS.
Yes. I mean, I remember back in the day when
Lord.
Missouri State was 0-10.
Yes,
that
they were horrendous.
They did not win a game in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, I believe, one of the years that we've covered them.
Last year, the Bison and the Jackrabbits blew the doors off this team, and this is the same team that's playing this year.
Missouri State's best team
last
year in FCS. In the time I've covered them, and NDSU just absolutely murdered them.
They scored 59 on them. And I think the Jacks did over 50 in Springfield.
And so it's, we beat this, our heads into a brick wall for 100 years.
I saw that this morning.
And it doesn't matter because it's apparently not going to happen, although I'm holding out hope, but it just, and then, again, to go further down this road is, so there's a chance here, and I think it's a pretty good chance, that the Valley is going to get 6 teams in.
It's looking at it.
Including a couple of 7 and 5 teams, which some people might say, awesome! Oh, all 4 Dakota schools. And I say, my God, no. Because we got into this last year. It's no longer a national tournament.
Nope.
It's what's happened is what we talked about last year, is it's the 2 Montana schools. And then last year it was 3 Dakota schools. UND was left out. I think actually UND is the second best Dakota school this year. So it could be 4 Dakota schools.
South Dakota State could be left out this year.
You're going to have, and this is what it's going to be going forward because look at, I actually spent time yesterday on my day off, you're welcome, going through the possibilities of who might make the playoffs. I know you're going to have Sam Herder on in a bit because he came out with his bracketology. But look at the other leagues. There's nobody.
I know. I'm well aware.
There's nobody. The SoCon used to be a pretty good FCS league.
We've detailed the CAA.
Yeah, the CAA is. They might get 3 because you have to have 24 teams.
Right, because somebody's got to be in the tournament.
At some point, the committee's going to go, you know what? We're just going to have a 21-team tournament this year because that's all the teams that deserve to get in the tournament. I mean, there's nothing left. I mean,
or you could have 3 Ivy League teams get in.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine for now. I mean, they're probably better than some of the teams in the SoCon and the Southland. I mean, there's just nothing out there. And I don't think it's going to get any better.
It's not trending in that direction, no.
No. And
I look at it, like you said, the United Athletic Conference has tried. They're trying to spend money and be better. That's Tarleton's league. That's Abilene there.
Well, and if Abilene Christian wouldn't have beaten Tarleton,
they're not making
they
it.
wouldn't have got in.
Nope.
And that's all part of it.
Yep.
But the only reason they're getting in is they're going to get the auto bid.
Correct. Because they have the win over Tarleton.
So that's taking up a spot, but there's no other spot. I mean, so Sac State's not going to make it.
Nope.
They're going to win their last 2 games and finish 8-4, and they've beaten nobody. Nobody.
Yeah, Sac State.
Northern Arizona is going to finish 8-4, I believe, and they've beaten nobody.
Yep.
And they're getting beat by teams like Montana State, 55-10.
I would say Sac State's best win is Eastern Washington.
Right. And they're not a playoff team.
Nope. Davis is going to get in, and I mean, Davis is going to go get smoked at Bozeman Saturday night, lose by 3 to 4
Maybe,
touchdowns.
you think?
Right? They're not going to.
You're such a vegan apologist. Frankly,
Am I?
Frankly, Montana State's not beating anybody either.
No, they're not.
The 2 games they had that had decent teams,
they lost to.
both of them, and all the rest have been against the Northern Arizonas,
Mercyhurst,
and the Mercyhursts of the world. They've beaten nobody. They're laying 66 points on teams, but I mean, it's just, and I do think that they're going to end up being the second best team in FCS.
You think they're going to win the Brawl of the Wild game?
I do.
Ooh, that's a road game. That's in Missoula.
It is.
Okay.
I don't.
The
think
home
that
team has
Montana
not lost
can
that
stop
game in like
anybody.
4.
I don't care. Montana.
Well, Montana nearly lost to Eastern Washington.
Yeah. I think Eastern Washington had 476 yards of offense or something.
And they fumbled the ball.
And had the ball on the 5-yard line or whatever
5 or 6 yard line. Yep.
Going in for the winning score.
That's not great.
Nope.
No. So for the Bison fans freaking out about how they play.
Depending how the brackets turn out, we'll see how it all turns out. I mean, NDSU, if they have to play Youngstown or UND again, I know it's going to be in Fargo, and I know they're going to be, presumably well rested, but I mean, Youngstown, they couldn't stop the quarterback last time.
They could not. Although they outscored them, which is something they couldn't do against UND on Saturday in terms of offense. Let's break. We come back. We'll chat about how the Bison played in the game against UND and look ahead to the final 2 games of the season and how this plays out. The Bison are going to be heavy favorites against Northern Iowa and St. Thomas. We'll do that. More with Mike on the other side of the break. We're back right after this. All right, wrapping up hour 1 here. Sam Herter going to join us in a couple minutes. Back here with Mike. All right, so we got a bunch of emails. Kolpak and I went through them yesterday. We were up at the shack about the game on Saturday. Give me your 180-foot view of what went down in the game Saturday in Grand Forks.
Having a couple of days, I drove down to the Vikings game on Sunday, and took yesterday off and just was kind of thinking about this. And one of the popular narratives is NDSU is vulnerable. Oh, they can't score. They're not that good.
They barely won.
They barely won. So
heard that a couple times.
Me being the contrarian that I am, think about this. How many teams can have fewer first downs than penalties? They had 10 first downs.
Yep. And 11 penalties.
They were out time of possession like 38-23 or some of whatever the numbers are.
Close to that.
But they scored one touchdown. They scored one touchdown.
One touchdown.
Yep. Their quarterback, who was the Walter Payton favorite, I think he still had by a million miles, his worst game of his very short college action. Just a number of statistics where you go, wow. UND ran 81 plays.
Yep.
Bob Stitt in 2015 was shouting from the mountaintops after they ran 82 plays in NDSU, like that was the greatest accomplishment in the world. UND ran 81 plays. NDSU won the game.
Yep.
They won the game. How many other FCS teams would win that game? Put those statistics on any other team on the road, by the way.
Correct.
At a team that lives and dies, a whole community and university lives and dies with that one football game. And it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
The fans were loud.
Into it.
Just an absolute.
It was great.
cauldron that NDSU was in that game, and a terrible interception that Cole Payton threw to give them a short field.
Yes, and score the touchdown.
NDSU, to repeat, won the game. So you can look at it like, oh my God, they're terrible. They're not going to win the national championship. They're vulnerable. Oh my, or you can look at it and say, wow, that's a pretty impressive victory. Like,
defensively played
by
really well.
the way, when it mattered, like when it really, really mattered, when it was blank cutting time, their offense moved 50 yards in 4 plays to score a touchdown. And the quarterback made 2 plays
to win the game.
To win the game. And their quarterback, who also, by the way, had a very rough day. Everybody wants to talk about Cole Payton.
Kaminsky was not
Jared
good.
Kaminsky was having a good season. His last 2 weeks have not been good.
No,
and
he's thrown 5 picks in 2
he was
games.
not good against NDSU. NDSU rattled him.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they totally rattled him to the point that he threw 3 interceptions.
Right.
And
they wouldn't go down the field.
And did not get the first down. That wasn't his fault. His offensive line got murdered on that play. NDSU won the game.
Give me your thoughts on what you've seen out of the goal on game Saturday with Cole, of how he played. Because the interception, he totally turned, I thought, into a different quarterback that we've not seen this season.
And that's what we're going to ask Tim about it today later on. But it seemed like once he threw that interception, which was a bad decision.
You're looking at it right here. I mean, I don't know where he's going with the ball. No.
But after that, he had 4 or 5 throws, I think, that were like 6 feet above receivers' heads. On the series, when Keenan Wilson had the interception, I think that was a series where Payton threw 2 balls out of the back of the end zone
that were way high.
The second guy wasn't open.
No, that one's way airmailed there.
I thought Chris Harris maybe, and I didn't go back and watch the game, but I thought Chris Harris was maybe open.
The Kessel one was the first that he airmailed. That's pretty hard to do on Reese Kessel, who's 6'5".
He missed Lance. He missed Raja by a ton on one throw, and so it was just a lot of high balls.
That might have been the one there.
You just didn't see out of him prior. And so you wonder if that interception, again, we forget that this is his first year of starting. Like Cam Miller had 5 years to kind of figure things out. Cole Payton has had, everybody's talking about
10 games.
J.J. McCarthy's only had 4 starts. Well, you know what? Cole Payton's only had 10 starts prior to this game. And it was a really difficult environment. And I mean, maybe it showed through, that's going to happen. But you and I and Kolpak were exchanging texts the other day, but every other star quarterback at NDSU that has gone on to the NFL, I'm not saying that Cole Payton's going to do that. I don't know if he is or not. But Carson Wentz had a brutal game against Northern Iowa down at Northern Iowa.
Ironically enough, with Northern Iowa here.
Bad.
Yep.
And Brock Jensen had bad games at home where he threw 2 pick sixes against Indiana State. Easton Stick had a terrible game. He made 3 turnovers himself down at South Dakota State. He fumbled and threw 2 bad interceptions at South Dakota State. Cam Miller had some bad games. The Incarnate Word game was at home, and the game up in Grand Forks where they just got throttled. But he wasn't great in that game either. And some of that wasn't his fault.
Trey Lance
down in Brookings in the big game that they ended up winning, he was not great in that game throwing the ball. He just was not. And so every other quarterback has had these types of games, but they also, in most cases, had time to sort of make people forget about that.
Or they won the game sometimes.
Or they won the games.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, they're going to be at home the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Unlikely they're going to see that type of defense again from another team. Unless they play UND again. But even then, it's going to be in Fargo.
Right, and that's the whole difference to me. Until UND proves that they can not get run off the field in Fargo, it's a different story.
Just a different atmosphere. It's a tough place to play up there. We knew it was. I've been saying for a year it's going to be like that up there. But you want to see Payton now bounce back and play better. Certainly against Northern Iowa.
I'm really interested
in the half he's going to play.
Right, considering the next 2 weeks are not going to be stressful games. If they are, then there's all other questions we're going to have for Bison football. But if they are not, how much do these guys play over the next 2 weeks and then have a bye week before the playoffs even begin?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Just why would you play? Just give guys time to rest.
Right. Especially your linebackers.
Yes. I mean,
can't get off the field.
Throw some the freshmen
Time for
there
the
or
true freshmen
some
to play.
backups
Yes,
or whatever. And
absolutely.
Just get through these next two. It doesn't matter if you win them by 20 points or by 40 points. It makes no difference.
Yep.
I suppose there's probably an argument to staying sharp, and you don't just want to, coast in.
Correct.
If your second round game is against a Youngstown,
against a Valley team,
or a UND,
or even South Dakota State.
South Dakota State.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to go into that game sleepwalking. But
no.
I mean, everything now is set up for NDSU. The next 5 games could be at home. They will never have to.
Will
leave.
be at home. Yes.
Yes. I mean, yeah, right. I mean, if they
win,
continue to win, is
yeah.
my point. I guess never have to leave Fargo. Nope. You get that week off to rest, whereas there's going to be a number of Valley teams playing that first weekend. So everything is set up for them, and they still have the best team.
Not to steal thunder from your column, is South Dakota State one of those 6 teams in the FCS playoffs?
See, I think it's 7-5. If they lose their last 2 and they lose 5 in a row, I don't think they deserve to be in.
I don't think so either. Nope.
I just don't think so.
The committee would be saying they're in because they're South Dakota State. That would be the only way in.
Yeah, the only other. And I'd be
can't
saying
do
the
that.
same thing if it was NDSU or anybody else. It's
right.
not, I mean, if NDSU was 7-0 and then
lose 5 in a row,
you'd go, well, that they don't
No.
they don't deserve to be in at that point.
And they're going to say, well, taking into account their starting quarterback hasn't played that entire time. Okay, well, injuries happen all the time.
Right. Well, they've had a bunch of other injuries, but that's also part of the deal. Like what's the team now?
Yep.
You can go back. Well, they beat Montana State. That was 3 months ago.
Correct. That was in the second week of the season.
It was a different world back then.
Yep. I think Youngstown's in because they're going to win their last 2.
They're going to go 8-4. They're in.
Is UND in at 7-5? If somehow the Jacks win that game in Grand Forks,
I think that's a question. I've had this debate with others, and they think that that UND should be in. And my point is, they've had close. At some point,
they lost all those games.
At some point,
you're right.
You have to win the game. The whole key is winning games. You can't. So would a 5-7 team or would a 6-6 team? No.
A lot of quality losses there,
right.
Michael.
I mean, at some point you have to win the game.
Illinois State in at 7-3. They play at Brookings and then they host SIU.
Well, if they lost both, then they probably wouldn't deserve to be in either.
That's 7-5. Their best win would be over South Dakota.
Right.
And we have the Coyotes. If the Coyotes lose in Carbondale on Saturday, are they in?
I just think that 7-5 is tough. Again, because what we talked about earlier, that there's just there's no second or third place SoCon team that's going to get in. There's no third place Southland team that's going to get in because they all suck. And so
we got to put somebody in the tournament.
Yeah, right. And we need 24 teams, so it comes down to the old question of, and the problem is there's not even any borderline teams.
No,
it's
it is a cut and dry
right.
here.
I mean,
yep.
So then you'd be going, well, Sacramento State at 8-4, or just to throw a team out there, UND at 7-5. If they would happen to lose their last game, which I don't think they're going to, by the way.
But I don't think they're losing to South Dakota State either. No.
And so 8-4 Northern Arizona or 7-5 Southern Illinois. What's the difference?
Yep.
None of them have beaten anybody.
No.
I mean, so what's the difference?
Just they have to fill this. Oh, wait a minute. We only have 23 teams. We got to put one more in.
Right. Yep.
Just
give the 16 or give the 9th seed a bye in that first round. Whatever.
Great to see you, bud. Thanks for coming by. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Mike McFeely joins us each and every Tuesday at 9:35. Tim Polisic press conference again coming up 1:30 later today. Streaming on WDAY Plus. We'll break. We come back. Special Tuesday appearance for our guy Sam Herder to go through those FCS playoff scenarios. We'll do that. For hour 2 of Hot Mike begins right after this.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 ready to rock and roll here on this Tuesday morning. Steve Laqua going to join us in a half hour. MSUM head football coach. Normally we have Dave Richmond here. He's apparently unavailable. Bison have a game tonight with CSUN. That's coming up tonight, 7 o'clock. You'll see it here live on Extra. But we normally have this guy on with us on Mondays. We got a special Tuesday appearance as we were live over the Shack yesterday. Sam Herder joins us from Hero Sports, BetMGM, as we are down to the final 2 weeks of this FCS regular season. He just published his latest bracketology, which we'll get to in a minute. Let's first go back. I know it's a week ago now. The rankings came out. I had immediate issue with them. Did you have any issue with how they ranked the top 10?
Uh, there was some question marks with it for sure. I thought SDSU still being in there was definitely questionable, especially being at number 6. I think
Yes.
they really took overall body work into account, and they do take player availability, into account as well. Maybe they're thinking Chase Mason will be back. And so, well, you don't necessarily totally forgive the losses without him, but you take that into account. Same thing with Western Carolina. They were without Teron Dickens for the first 3 games, so I think they could take that into account as well. So that was definitely one that I kind of questioned a little bit. I was still surprised to see UC Davis in the top 10.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have any great wins. Northern Arizona they did beat, but they had a bad loss against Idaho State. So yeah, there was kind of some question marks here or there. I thought Tarleton would be number 4
Yes.
instead of Lehigh, so that was a bit of a surprise. But I'd somewhat see the argument for Lehigh. They do have a couple of good wins over some good Ivy League teams, but I thought Tarleton overall had a better resume, and Montana State ahead of Montana wasn't necessarily a surprise either, just because we saw them have the Cats ahead of the
Yep.
Grizz last time around. So
I will say this, and then we'll move on because things have happened. But it seems to me the committee has penalized some teams for losing and other teams not as much for losing. That's how it stood to me. Like Tarleton got punished for losing to Abilene Christian. UND got punished for losing to South Dakota, but South Dakota State didn't get punished for losing to Indiana State. To me, that just seemed like, and UC Davis didn't get punished for losing to Idaho State. Didn't make sense.
yeah, definitely some inconsistencies there, and maybe we'll get the committee chair on the record, when the actual bracket comes
Yeah.
out on the ESPNU show. But it's definitely tough because he'll have to speak for the entire committee,
Correct.
and again, it's not a group think decision. It's everyone voting in, and then that it kind of orders from there. And so there might even be some stuff that he disagrees with, where it's like, yeah, we're inconsistent here because we treated this team this way and another team this way, but that's how everyone voted, as a whole. So that's kind of the difficult part of the committee chair, is defending some things that he's speaking for the committee
Right.
that he might even disagree with a little bit. But yeah, there is that inconsistency there where SSU didn't get punished as much as some other teams for losing.
All right, let's go with some automatics here. The Bison are 1 no matter what, correct? They win out. North Dakota State is the 1 seed.
Yeah, for sure. Undefeated and 6 ranked wins. That's twice as many as anyone else out there. So yeah, it's a very loaded number 1 playoff resume.
So the winner of the Brawl of the Wild game is automatic the 2, no matter who wins it in your mind. I believe so. I'm asking you.
Yeah, I would assume so. Assuming Montana has to go to Portland State, which should be a win,
Yes.
but Montana's kind of been lollygagging around a little bit. The Montana State hosts UC Davis, who's a ranked opponent. It's at home for the Cats, so they should win there. So that sets up for the brawl. The winner there should definitely be the number 2 seed. I don't know who would jump them. I don't see a Lehigh jumping all the way up to the 2 seed.
It's my mind that the loser of the game is the 3. You agree with that, or does the committee punish whoever loses the Brawl of the Wild game and drop them beyond 3?
I think the loser has a pretty good shot at the number 3 seed. Now, if Montana loses, they have a more likely shot to be at the 3 seed, just because the Grizz would be, 11-1
Right.
overall. Compared to Montana State, if they lose, they would be 9-3, 9-2 versus the FCS. Does that drop them below a Lehigh team who has 3 more overall wins at 12-0? Would they move Montana State to 4 in that scenario and move Lehigh to 3? Lehigh, like I said, would have 3 more wins, but their strength of schedule would be 87th compared to Montana State's number 3. The Cats would also have 2 ranked wins. Lehigh would have 1 if Lafayette is still ranked at that point. So I feel like the loser, if Montana loses, they would probably be 3. If Montana State loses, I still think they would be 3, but it would be a better likelihood for the Cats to drop below 3, just because they would have those 3 losses.
All right, let's give some love to the Ivy League since this is their first year, and we've been talking about it all year. Is Harvard got the credentials? Can they get into the top 8 despite the fact they'll have 1 less game because the Ivy League only plays 10 games?
Yeah, I think Monmouth losing this last weekend could help. That could potentially drop Monmouth out of the top 8 seeds. But I still look at Harvard. They would be 10-0. They won't really have any I mean, there's some good teams in the Ivy League, but they wouldn't have any ranked wins on their resume. Their strength of schedule would be 84th. And so, I don't know if that would be enough for a first round bye. At the same time, like they play two less opponents than everyone else, obviously, but they still hit 10 wins in fewer opportunities, and they could potentially have the same amount of wins as Mercer. One less. I mean, even if Tennessee Tech, they could go 11-0 versus the FCS, or 11-0 overall. Or 11-1 overall would be because they have an FBS opponent, but they would only have 10 D1 wins.
Right.
That's the same amount as Harvard. Strength of schedule would be about the same. So I think Harvard, has a chance to get a first round bye. I just don't know if they would jump any of these teams like a Tennessee Tech, a Mercer, or a Monmouth. If they were to jump a team, I feel like Monmouth would be the most likely team that Harvard could jump.
That'd be something else. In the first year of eligibility, and they get a top 8 seed and a bye, that would be a heck of a line for the committee to draw, in my mind.
Yeah, and if they do get a seed, it seems most likely they would be the 8 seed,
right?
Which means they're lined up with NDSU, for a potential quarterfinal game, and so that would be, pretty fun right there.
Let's go. South Dakota now is 7-4. They just beat South Dakota State. The week prior, they beat North Dakota State. Are they in if they? This is their final game of the regular season. Is in Carbondale at 7-5. Is that enough for South Dakota to get in your mind?
I do think they would still get in at 7-5. For sure, obviously gets in at 8-4 with the win over SIU. That would be their third ranked win. Even with the loss and going to SIU is going to be difficult because SIU desperately needs a ranked win on the resume.
Yes.
They have one left D1 win as well. So the Salukis really need this one. If the Yotes were to lose, I feel like they would have a good chance to get in because there's going to be other 7-win teams from the Valley potentially on the bubble, and with 2 wins over UND and South Dakota State, who were ranked in the top 10 at the time, I think that gives South Dakota a really good argument. Now there's a chance that like Lamar could be somewhere on the playoff bubble. I think you have to give the nod to Lamar over South Dakota, but I still think there would be room for the Yotes at 7 wins. They would go up against like an 8-win Northern Arizona team, but NAU doesn't have any ranked wins. Dartmouth and New Hampshire, William and Mary, they could be 8-win teams, but they don't have any ranked wins.
Yeah.
Austin P would have 1 ranked win and an FBS win, so that could be another 7-win team that's pretty close to getting in. But I think you take a 7-win USD team with 2 top 10 wins at the time. I think that gives them a pretty good argument to get in.
Suddenly, I crushed USD for losing to Lamar. That's not a bad loss now, considering Lamar is in the top 20.
Yeah, it's quality losses. They definitely take those into account, and yeah, good on you USD for turning things around because they have a lot of new names, and they could have kind of not all the way given up on the season, but maybe not have the sense of urgency, especially after getting beat down pretty well by NDSU, and even after losing to Illinois State,
yes.
Like they were in a really really tough spot with 4 ranked opponents still to come, 3 or 4 ranked opponents still to come after that loss, and for them to turn around and get 2 big wins at home, I think the Yotes are playing really well right now.
Yeah, that win over UND, I don't think you can underestimate for South Dakota what it did, and obviously beating South Dakota State, and now as we've mentioned, this game with SIU to wrap up the regular season. And this is, they played 12 straight weeks. Travis Johansson was talking to us about this, and you remember, Sam, in July back in Sioux Falls about the grind of this, and now they have an opportunity to potentially get in, get a week off, and get healthy, and then see what happens when the FCS playoffs begin, because they'll be playing on Thanksgiving weekend. Let's talk about the team they beat this weekend. South Dakota State is now in a precarious spot. 7-3, home for Illinois State, at UND. Mike and I were just talking about this. If they lose their last 2, I don't see a scenario where they can get in having lost 5 in a row. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I don't think they would have a very good shot at getting in at 7-5. They would need a lot of help, a lot of bubble teams to kind of lose to help their way into the bracket. But at 7-5, and we've seen. We saw last week, like we talked about, South Dakota State got a lot of benefit of the doubt from the playoff committee still being in the top 8. But if they lose would it be 3 more times since that reveal? You're 7-5. You still have a couple of ranked wins over Montana State and Youngstown State, but player availability can go against you as well. And if Chase Mason, doesn't come back in these next 2 games, and they're 7-5, I think South Dakota State would have a hard time getting into the bracket on a 5-game losing streak. Kind of how you're trending also plays a factor as well with how the playoff committee views you. So the Jacks need to split one of these games. 2 ranked opponents coming up versus Illinois State at UND. We say this every week. It seems like Chase Mason is nearing a return. I think he'll be back at some point. I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't return at some point in the regular season, whether it's this week or next week. I do think he'll be back, but the Jacks have other injuries as well. Their best offensive lineman is out, and their backup quarterback is out, and their best defensive player is out, best wide receiver is out. A lot of teams are dealing with injuries as well. UC Davis is one that comes to mind. Tarleton had a bunch of starters out, and they kept on winning. So it's not necessarily an excuse, but when it comes to like people asking that aren't following it closely what happened to South Dakota State, like injuries are a reason why. It's not an excuse, but it is a reason why, and they just don't have the depth this year compared to past years.
All right, give me a conference race or maybe a bubble we're not paying enough attention to that is going to play itself out here besides the Missouri Valley over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm interested in the UAC. Abilene Christian, when they play a ranked opponent, it seems like they win, but when they play an unranked opponent, It seems like they lose. And so right now, if they win out, they're the auto bid out of the UAC. Now, I still think Tarleton State would be a higher seed despite not getting the auto bid. But if Abilene Christian loses one more game, would a 7-win Abilene Christian team get in? I don't know. And then you also have Austin Peay in there, who is who dropped a couple of games to unranked teams. I believe Eastern Kentucky and Southern Utah. If they win out, they would be they would hit 7 wins. Like I talked about, FBS win in there, a dominant one over Middle Tennessee State. They also have a 1-ranked win as well because West Georgia came back into the rankings this week. So Austin Peay is another interesting one as well. I'm curious to see the SoCon as well here because Mercer, I think, if they keep on winning, which they should, I actually think Mercer might be better than last year's team with how their offense is playing.
No kidding. Wow. Okay.
Defense not as good, but offense.
Better.
That offense, Fargo Dome, was not good last year. They're
correct.
much better this year. I think Mercer has a chance to get a top 8 seed.
Wow.
Western Carolina, if they win out, they would be 8-4 overall, but they would be 8-1 with Teron Dickens in the lineup. He missed the first 3 games. I feel like an 8-win Western Carolina team would get the SoCon a second bid, but we've seen in past years that the SoCon has gotten a bad upset, and I think Western Carolina plays ETSU this week. If they lose that game, like that would kind of be the SoCon being the SoCon, then they would be out of so that's another one right there to keep an eye on. I think Western can get in, but they have to win out for sure.
Austin Peay, by the way, final game is at Tarleton, so they can play themselves in by winning. They have Samford and Tarleton as their last 2. They win that, they'll have 9 wins. It'd be hard to keep them, or 8 wins. They'd be 8-4. It'd be hard to keep them out.
Yeah, that's right. If they win out, they're for sure in. If they split, which they should beat Samford. Samford just fired their coach. Coach Hatcher. So they should win there. Then if they lose to Tarleton State, then they would finish with 7 wins. And I mean, FBS win counts for something. They have a ranked win in there, but they would have to jump multiple 8-win teams to get into the bracket.
All right, give us your spotlight games we got for Week 12 coming up this week.
Yeah, a few more ranked matchups coming up here. We have an ESPN2 game. That's number 9, UC Davis going to Montana State. Very curious there. UC Davis, if they lose this game, the pressure is on for them to beat their rival Sac State. And if they do that, they should get in. But if they lose these last 2 games, I think UC Davis has a chance to drop all the way out of the playoffs. Montana State, to me, I think looks like the number 2 team in the country right now. They're looking really good. One of the most complete teams in the FCS. We have South Dakota going to SIU, another ranked matchup. We talked about that one. I don't know if it's a must win for South Dakota. Like we talked about, they could lose and still get in, but if they win, they are for sure in.
Yes.
To me, this is a must win for SIU. They have to get a quality win on their resume, and that non-D1 win could be a factor for the Salukis. Number 14, Illinois State goes to number 16, South Dakota State. Again, not a must win for South Dakota State, but if you lose this one, then UND is a must win for the Jacks. Illinois State, I think, is sitting pretty good, but they have a couple of ranked opponents still to come as well. One more win for the Redbirds, and they're probably in the bracket. Then the last one, number 19, Lamar, goes to number 15, SFA. the Southland could be anywhere from a 1 to a 3 bid league. SFA, I think, is the best team in there. Lamar in Southeastern Louisiana could have arguments to get in. SFA didn't play Southeastern Louisiana, and so that's kind of a matchup you would like to see. But Lamar just beat Southeastern Louisiana, and Lamar has that win over South Dakota.
Right.
So I think for sure a 2-bid league, I would guess, for the Southland. Maybe a 3rd bid, but this one right here is big in the Southland with Lamar going to SFA.
With the bracket now going to 16 seeds, how much does that clear up in terms of how the first round matchups play out in your mind?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit easier because instead of taking a pool of 16 teams and trying to figure out the bus trips and regionalize that, you pretty much take 8 teams, seeds 9 through 16, and then you take the other 8 teams, and then you're matching it up from there. And there's still some regionality to it, right? Like, like Villanova and like Harvard would be like a matchup. It'd still be somewhat regional, but it would just be less regional because you have less kind of different variations you could do. So it makes bracketology a bit easier than obviously 16 feeds into one, and so that makes it a lot easier for us bracketology to just match things up that way instead of the previous way where it really was a lot more of a shot in the dark when it comes to those first round matchups.
All right, before we go, you're wearing your hometown there. Give a shout out to Breckenridge for the big game on Saturday at US Bank Stadium, right?
Yeah, I had to pull this out circa 2010. That was my senior year. We went 10-0 before losing in the section championship to OTC. So good to see the Cowboys, win the section championship, dominate their first round game, and make it to the state semifinals for the first time since probably the or maybe the early 2000s. I don't know. My dad would know that, but yeah, excited to watch them play at the US Bank Stadium this weekend.
They got Murray County Central that's coming up on Saturday morning, I believe at 11:30, for the right to go to the Class A championship game. Great stuff as always, Bud. We'll do this next Monday. Thanks for being flexible this week. We appreciate it.
Yep, not a problem. See you next week.
There he goes. Sam Herder joining us on a special Tuesday appearance. Normally gives us on Mondays for the latest what's going on around the FCS. Again, a nationally televised game with Montana State and Davis. How about that? Some love for Stace's Mercer Bears, who are unbeaten since they lost to Presbyterian, which was a head-scratcher of a game. Braden Atkinson at quarterback. He likely is going to win the Jerry Rice Award as the top freshman in FCS. Been dynamite. Mercer now into the top 8 potentially with 2 weeks to go in the regular season. Good stuff there. All right, we'll break. We get caught up. We got a bunch of emails from our opening segment on the Jay Gibson news and a couple other topics we'll get to as well with Steve Laqua said to join us in about 15 minutes. That's coming up. Hot Mic rolls on this Tuesday morning. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. We got a bunch of emails coming in off our first segment. Dom, if Gibson was in any way pushed out, I'd like to know exactly what is the stakeholders of West Fargo High think they'll be getting in his replacement. The fact is the demographics of West Fargo are such that West Fargo High School is becoming the Fargo South of the West Fargo School District. The coaches at both schools are working miracles. They're not simply developing players in a program. They're teaching the game to new Americans in an area of town, declining football participation, and succeeding at producing good players and good people. A lot of truth to that. Obviously, we know there's no more room going north necessarily in West Fargo. I know there's talk of potentially Harwood, that area of being the 4th West Fargo school, but there's no new land there. Everything's gone south since the last 15 years. That's mimics of what's obviously happened in Fargo with Davies opening as it did in 2010. Let's do one more on this before we shift topics. Appreciate your truth in what appears to be or not to be the real story behind coaching changes in high school sports. It is unfortunate for Coach Gibson. It would bring him on as a guest to fill people in. This happens yearly here in Rapid City. A group of parents can ruin a great coaching career. It's unfortunate. People appreciate people watching down in Rapid. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, like I said before off the top of the show, that this has gone on more than a few times in West Fargo. We've gone through this, whether it be the AD position, whether it have been coaching position. Jay was never maybe the easiest guy to deal with, I'm sure, for administration. But he was his own guy. And no, you know what? Never got in trouble. His guys didn't get in trouble, and they won. They won way more games than they lost, I can tell you that. And heck, the years actually, and he would always tell me this. He's like, Dom, we're going to go play the first 3 games. I don't know why they schedule the way they do, but we're going to go play the first 3. And because he would talk like this, because I could never get him into a minute and a half shell for a live interview. I'd always blow up my time. We're going to go play, and we'll probably get beat by 50 by Bismarck or Century, and then it's EDC time, and then we'll figure out where we're at. And you know what? He did that all the time. I can't even tell you how many times that they would be 0-2 or 1-3, and then they come to EDC and turn it on, and before you know it, they're either conference champs or the 2 seed. It happened more often than not. More often than not, that would be the case with his teams. And like I said, if this is, again, he said to Ryan Spitza, this is not a retirement. I'm resigning. And it's clear to me that he didn't want to be done being the head football coach there. If he did, then that would have been a big announcement with this. There would have been a send-off, like we're going to honor the man's career, that he's done it for 35 years. That did not happen. So something tells me, I'm not a great football mind. My common sense is on and off, but my spidey sense is going off that something ain't right on this situation. Speaking of something ain't right, from the national sports news, my phone been blowing up here before we go to break. The Dallas Mavericks are expected to fire their GM, Nico Harrison. This should have happened 8 months ago when he traded Luka Doncic for a bag of balls. And then they lucked into the number 1 pick in the draft. They won the lottery to get Cooper Flagg. But according to ESPN, they are going to move on from their GM. When you trade a star player and get nothing back, you can't trade Luka Doncic. You just can't. And you traded him to the Lakers. That is a fireable offense. Just comes 8 months later. All right, let's break. We come back. Our guy Steve Laqua will join us. The Dragons have their season finale, at least of the regular season, coming up Saturday at Mankato. We'll preview that and reflect on Gage Florence's record-setting day that happened this past Saturday. That's coming up when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Beautiful Tuesday morning on this Veterans Day rolls on. Final, 25 minutes of our show. Get you ready. We're going to have a busy Sports Tuesday before we wrap things up. So we're into the final week of the regular season for Division II football. That means for Minnesota State University, Moorhead, everything's in front of them. They have a chance here. They have their final game of the regular season on Saturday against MSU Mankato. A win and some help, and maybe, just maybe, they might hear their name called for the Division II football tournament. It has expanded this year. Head coach Steve Laqua joins us on this Tuesday morning, does each and every Tuesday at 10:35. First, before we do that, Devil's Lake is back in the Dakota Bowl. You have ripped the hearts out of Firebirds fans for 2 years running. That's the last time they were there, 2009, 2010. If you want to give a formal apology to them, the floor is yours here this morning.
Well, I don't know about an apology, but you know what? I'm glad that they're back. I'm glad they're in the situation. When you get close and you don't get it, those things, it's a lot better to be on the winning side of things. I've been on both sides at different times in the career. You know what? I'm glad they're back for the community. I think that's a good thing. You know what? At the end of the day, they're playing in the game that everybody wants to play in when you start the season. And however it goes. I remember the one game, I was like, we'd had a tremendous season, and it all would have gone for naught. It felt like for us, we were averaging winning by 30 points a game. And then it was a close game. It comes down to a game-winning field goal at the wire. But you feel like if you lose it, everything you've done doesn't matter to that point. But at the end of the day, you're playing in the game that kids grow up dreaming about playing in. And obviously you want to win, but at the end of the day, you're getting that experience. And so, you know what? Hopefully it goes well for them.
The second time around, 2010 for you, and I'll talk about your current team. Were you more nervous that time, knowing everybody expected you to win, than the first time when you guys made it the year prior?
Absolutely. There's only 2 games that I've ever coached in that I've almost thrown up in before the game. And one was the first time that I was a head coach at Shanley. And I don't even know why I was nervous. We had no prayer of winning a game. But it was getting off the bus, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what are we going to put out on this field? Like, I'm in charge of this now. Like, it's at the end of the day, everyone's going to look at me and be like, wow, you did that. Whoa. So there was some nervous there. And then it was this one going into the second Devils Lake game that I remember I had to kind of sneak off, find a bathroom that was, because I didn't want anybody to know. And I was like, oh boy, this is not good here. So yeah, I definitely felt it.
And those two games are one of the two of the best ever played in the history of the Dakota Bowl. Both for the longest time was the only overtime game with you and Devils Lake, and then a game-winning field goal at the Alaris Center in 2010. You're part of some more memories here this past weekend. We talked about leading up to it. Describe what it was like to see Gage Florence go and do what he did Saturday, now to become the all-time receptions leader in Division II history.
It was really exciting. It was exciting after when I knew it happened. I didn't know that it happened on the play. I didn't know where he was. There was one point in the game where I heard some cheering, and I thought, oh, okay, it's not really, really loud, so it's probably okay. He's tied it. And then you're to the next play, and then he caught one. We're getting to the next play call, and then you hear the fans cheering super loud. I was like, oh, he must have got it right there. What I thought was really special is, John Webking and his crew with the Go team, they made a video tribute, and we've got the video board, right? Generous donors make that happen. We're able to use the board. His mom's talking there. That's where I probably, lost it. I'm trying to hold it in here still a little, where you get a little bit teary-eyed. You're like, you know what? This kid's come a long way. We're excited for him. And then he gets to kind of enjoy it that moment with the people close to him. I thought that was really cool. So I was glad we got that. And then we had the senior banquet afterwards where we could kind of bask in it a little bit. It ended up being a perfect way for it to happen. Perfect day.
How was that on Saturday night? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's good. It's always that's probably a tougher time. I struggle a little bit pregame with, seeing the families out there, and especially when they're not holding it together, so to say. And I'm like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like a dad who's, at the end of a road with these guys and sending them off. And, at the banquet, I get a chance to talk to each player, and I have something written for them and read it. And so I know, you go through that and you try and make it personal, and that's difficult. I know, the last couple that I saved the last couple, Gage and Jack, I left at the end because I knew those would be difficult. But I told my wife I could almost not, it wasn't because my handwriting was bad, but I could almost not read Jack's because my tears in my eyes, everything was blurry. And, I just basically told him, was just so appreciative that he chose us, right? He chose this program, the staff, these teammates, this Dragon family of almost 450 people that were sitting in that room last night, and forever indebted to his choice. And that it speaks a lot about who he is and made a lot of impact on our program.
That's good stuff. I appreciate you sharing that. On top of everything, you also got the win, which I know is the most important thing. How did the team play? Know all those emotions, expectations, records on the line. How did you feel the guys handle that on Saturday?
Honestly, I really liked it. I think week 10, our guys played with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. You could tell they were excited to be out there. Did we play perfect football? No, we played really good football. You look at halftime, I was a little discouraged. I'm like, holy, these guys got over 250 yards of offense. But you look at the scoreboard, they've only scored 14. One was a pick six. You get to the end of the game, and maybe as a coach, I was like, gosh, can we just get it put away sooner? It was like 16 points. Wow, you never know. Then it was 24 with 11 minutes to go. And on the headsets, we're like, wow, this is where our wheels came off against Mary. And you're like, oh, I just never felt in control. But at the end of the day, you look at it and go, hey, our defense held them to the lowest point total since week 3 or week 4. For them, they're up, and that's giving up 7 on a pick six, no fault of the defense. Our offense scores 44 points. We run the ball for over 300 yards. We ran for more than 300 yards, and so I'm guessing the next question is, hey, what's wrong with Jack? Are we going to play him if he can't throw for more yards than we rush for? Like, what are we doing here? Maybe we got to talk about a change. And so,
man,
I'm ready for that question. If you're going to
come on now, I'm not that predictable. I was just going to say you ran for 300 yards. That's a red letter date. We probably should, have some sort of star next to it.
Yeah, 2 100-yard rushers in one game. Tyson Bryant, Owen Wiersma, and hats off to Owen Wiersma. He's gotten his opportunity here down the stretch of the season. He's done a fabulous job running, getting yards, getting tough yards, making great reads. Super helpful for our offense.
Well, I was going to be that guy. I'd say, were you feeling okay calling that many runs? Were you getting like the shakes or something on the sideline Saturday?
Well, it was cold, so my hands didn't work. I couldn't pull the call sheet over to get to the other side of the passes, so I just had to stick to the one side.
Oh, man.
Good, I guess.
To finish out the home schedule the way you did, that's become a thing as well, of trying to protect home field. How do you feel that's become now a place where it's really hard for teams to come in and play?
Well, I hope so. I think some of us, we're creatures of habit, and so being able to play in a routine where you know the start time and those things certainly are helpful. I do think our crowds have continued to grow,
Yes.
and it's been surprising. We had a good crowd out there too in the game, and it was cold, and a team that maybe didn't draw a lot of fans, a team with one win, but hey, we had a good crowd, like pretty similar to the rest of the crowds all season, and so I think that's been really good. The following that we have as a program, I think, is there, and it can grow. Yeah, we want it to grow, but it definitely adds to the atmosphere and how our guys play.
All right, regular season finale, it's at Mankato. I was talking about this, I think, late last week, knowing full well of what happened down there a couple years ago with the block field. You had a chance. Just now knowing, hey, we can control what we control. We go down there and win, and then let's see what happens. For this group of having their regular season finale at Blakesley, this has got to seem almost poetic, right?
Well, I think so. I think we've looked at it and said this is however this season's going to go. We're in a one-game season. This is where you want to be playing at the end. This is the type of game, right? They know that they can't really stub their toe either if they want to make sure that they're in. So they've got to play it like a playoff game. You want to play in games that have that feel. And so we've got that opportunity. A couple of years ago, we played well down there, didn't get it done. Last year, we played a solid game. It's like the only team in our league that this group of seniors hasn't beaten is Mankato. And so there is a feeling to them of, okay, regardless of how it goes, like, can we get the program to that spot? Can we get where we overcome that hurdle? And so our guys are looking at it, embracing the challenge, are excited for it. I think there's a good, solid belief that we can do it. But I think we also know we play a really good football team that's got some of the most highest quality wins that you're looking at. You're like, this is a good football team. We got to play good football, but we are capable. And so we can do it. It doesn't have to be a miracle, but we have to play good football. You can't play bad football and expect to come out with a win.
What's your memories of playing there, of playing at Blakesley? What's that? What comes to mind when I talk to you about Mankato, Minnesota?
Well, I think about the last time we were there, and you talked about it earlier, having your heart ripped out, because that was a game that we felt like we could win. I'll go to the second time having my heart ripped out was my senior year, and we kind of had a debacle going down to the game. We're in Mankato. We're playing without some guys. And we got a field goal at the end that, you know what, I can't remember if we don't make it or they make it, but it came down to a field goal, and we lost a game that we shouldn't, which in essence took us out of the playoffs my senior year of college. And so that was a heartbreaker too. So there's been some heartbreakers there. I can't honestly remember. I know we won there as a player, but I don't remember winning there. So it would kind of be nice. I know I told myself, I remember this after our first year coaching, we went down there, we got our butts whooped. And I said to our staff, at some point, we're going to come back here and we're going to find a win. Now, I don't know at some point. I was like, I must have been pretty confident we were going to be here for a while because it's been a while. But hopefully, you know what? I think we played them 6 or 8 times, whatever it's been. Hopefully, we got a shot to be able to have that opportunity. We're at least going to go in there, and we're at least in the conversation. We're capable of doing it.
Has anything changed from when you played to now? I think it's this. When I went down for Vikings training camp, it looks the same.
It honestly does seem the same. I'm sure where the halftime, I don't remember where we went at halftime or not. Maybe that stuff is different. Obviously, their new basketball stadium is
fantastic.
Is really cool.
Yes.
I probably didn't appreciate it as a player because we didn't have as many turf fields, but the grass on this field has been phenomenal. It's like as good as any turf field. So I appreciate that now as I'm older and, I look at my own lawn with the weeds and everything, and I'm like, gosh, I got to talk to these guys. How did they get it done? Because I'm not even in the same league. I'm like ready to get kicked out of the neighborhood is kind of where my lawn is right now. So,
all right, knowing full well, I know you don't want to talk too much about this, but you're 7-3. You win. If you get a couple things, are the guys aware of what potentially could happen if you guys win? That a playoff spot may come your way if things go your way on Saturday.
Well, I think they look at it and say it's kind of that Dumb and Dumber line. Like, are we saying our chances are 1 in 100? And it's like, more like 1 in a million. So our guys are saying, so you're saying there's a chance? Like, yes. At the end of the day, we can only control what we can. If we can get a win and walk out of there, you know what, we've done what we can do, and then it's to the computers and the people. And you know what, the challenging thing for us is we haven't been up there and like going down.
Gotcha.
We've got to come out of nowhere and show up, and you're like, wow, we didn't make the top 10 ranking, and all of a sudden this team's going to make it. Like, we'd have to have a colossal fall apart here. Now, I have been a part of college football for a long time. There are a lot of crazy things that happen. And so sometimes that last win that assures a playoff spot for some teams is a really tough win to get, even if it's against a 4-win team. And so, you know, whatever that happens. At the end of the day, if we can go in there, play good football, and we can find a win, hey, that's what we can control.
Well, come on. They expanded 4 more teams this year. They can find room for you guys, right? Come on.
Well, it's one more in our region. And so, you know, I don't know. We'll see, right? Like, maybe we're 11 and we didn't make the top 10 ranking, and you got a lot that fall out, and you're like, wow, the 11th became the 8th. Great. Take it.
Well, I see if one of your old mates, Upper Iowa's in there, but they played one less game. What's that about?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just didn't fill a bye week or how their conference. I don't look close enough at those things. I do think they played Drake, so I'm not sure if it doesn't show up because it's a non-Division II game into the regional rankings. Just haven't followed it closely. At the end of the day, we've got to figure out how to beat Mankato, and the voters and the committee, they can figure out from there. So I'll stay out of that.
Appreciate the time as always, bud. Safe travels and good luck on Saturday, okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll talk next week. There you go. Steve Laqua joins us each and every Tuesday at 10:35. Dragon regular season finale at Mankato at Blakesley Stadium. Again, a win. We'll see what happens. The latest rankings had Duluth at 5, Mankato at 6, Upper Iowa at 7, Augie at 8, Northwood at 9, and Truman State at 10. The top 8 make it to the Division II football tournament, which begins a week from Saturday. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll wrap things up, get you ready. We got a great Sports Tuesday on tap. We got Bison Hoops tonight. We'll tell you all about that and send you out the door on this Veterans Day. Hot Mike will wrap on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Tuesday. Tomorrow we're back. We got a loaded show tomorrow as well. A couple more guests to get you ready for the Dakota Bowl and some Minnesota stuff as well. That's coming up on the program tomorrow. I don't know, put Stricker on the spot here, but do we know if anybody lost in the Eliminator this weekend? We didn't have time to update it yesterday since we were on the road, but we restarted our Eliminator challenge last Friday. And we had a handful of teams that you would not expect to win, like the Dolphins beating the Bills, if that transpired. So, all right, we'll get an update on that tomorrow because it restarted. And again, with the results that we had over the weekend, wouldn't surprise me if somebody bit it. But we'll update that coming up on the show tomorrow. Couple of Twins notes. Yes, the team still exists. With Derek Shelton, official who was announced last week. Pete Mackey is coming back as pitching coach. You can take that for what it's worth, considering I think the Twins were 24th in pitching stats in 2025. But he's still filling out his coaching staff. Tommy Watkins is moving on. The third base coach, I believe, is going to Atlanta. But the pitching coach is back. Hitting coach, that's a different story there with the Twins. But the first set of meetings, I think it's the general manager meetings are going on in Vegas, with obviously the big news that came down yesterday, the indictments of the 2 Guardians pitchers, namely Emmanuel Clase, the all-star closer. If it's part of that likely their careers are done. If they weren't already, they are certainly done now that they've been federally indicted. Not good news on that front. We mentioned also the Nico Harrison news out of Dallas. Let's see. So last night, I don't know, Bottineau had the day off already. This is probably helping him out. The Packers lost to Philadelphia last night. Suddenly, the NFC North race, which we thought was a runaway for the Packers, is anything but. The only thing that's running away are the Vikings going in the wrong direction, because you've got Green Bay now at 6-3-1. Or 5-3-1, excuse me. The Lions are 6-3, and don't look down. The Bears are 6-3 with the Vikings at 4. This is a monster game for Minnesota to be relevant. Vikings lose, you're 4-6. You win, you're 5-5, and the Bears are only 6-4. And you stay unbeaten in the division. More on that coming up later in the week. All right, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. What to watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Okay, we got Bison men's basketball tonight. Look at that mascot. It's pretty cool. The Matadors are here from Cal State Northridge to take on North Dakota State. Coverage begins tonight, 7 o'clock on WDAY Extra from the Shack. Part of 3 straight days of basketball games here on Extra. Also, we got going on tonight, the Minnesota Wild are in action. They're back at home as they take on the San Jose Sharks. That's at 7 o'clock on ESPN+. That's exclusive there to Hulu as well. Maction is back. Ohio and Western Michigan tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPN2 to start our second week of Maction. And the South Dakota State men are in action, or women, are in action tonight. They take on Murray State. That's at 7 o'clock on Midco for that one. We'll see an early look at the Jackrabbits for 25-26. That'll wrap our show. Our thanks to Zach Keller, to Mike McFeely, to Sam Herder, and Steve Laqua. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay of the show on WDAY+. We were just off and rolling on a crazy week. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great Veterans Day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.